Hey
Okay, hello
guys.
everyone. I'm DC. Welcome to me learning to live again, and we are today joined with Dave Mack from Zero Carb Life, who's joining us from
Hey,
Osaka in Japan. Okay,
great
so
to be here.
yeah, well, thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. We might be joined at some point by Larry from Carnivore Soldier as well. So we'll see what happens.
Oh,
He
cool.
said he might join us, so we'll see how we
Awesome.
go. Depends if he gets up or not. It's quite early in the morning for him. Yeah.
Oh, whereabouts is he?
Um, he's in Texas in the US.
Ah,
Yeah. So
okay.
it's
It'd
about
be very
12:30 at
early there
night.
now,
Mine.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, plus I gave him the wrong time too. I told him it was 5:30. There's a problem with my time setting here. Um, I'm not sure if it's because of the VPN that I use or whatnot, but YouTube always says it's an hour later than actually planned for. So I
Ah,
get
okay.
times, yeah, I keep getting the times mixed up between StreamYard and YouTube, and so it's yeah, but yeah, I'll
Yeah.
work it out. Yeah. So all right, so
Yeah. So,
um, sorry, you were going to say something?
I was just going to say, if anyone wants to put questions in, just chuck a queue in front, and we'll also get to the
Oh, that's
questions.
yes, yeah. Any questions you have, please put cues in front, and we will try and get to all of them if we can. Um,
Mm.
okay, so Dave, tell us about a bit about your story. I know people on your channel know, and probably most of the people on my channel probably know you as well. But how did you? Well, for example, you're Australian. How did you, or why are you in Osaka, for example?
So it's kind of a mixed bag, but the main reason I ended up here is when I was in my early 20s, I traveled a lot with my job. So I was doing IT and I was traveling around and I went to like the UK and US, South Africa, Hong Kong, that kind of thing. And that was really good. Um, around, being like 20, 21 years old. When I got back to Australia, I kind of went back into that kind of, same old kind of life, just living in suburbia, commuting to the city and back every day. And it was just every single day was just the same thing. And I got a bit bored after having traveled so much. So I was looking for a bit of a change and I decided, you know what? There's nowhere more different than Japan. So let's give Japan a go. And
Yeah,
17 years later, that's why I'm here.
yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough. That's
It
very
was
good.
originally only for
Yeah,
2 years, about 2 or 3 years, and it's just, and you know yourself, it's just so easy to live here.
it's amazing. Yeah, yeah, I was the
Mm.
same. I was bored. I just finished studying some extra courses I was doing for my job that I was doing. Um,
Mm.
and I figured, I'll go over to Japan. I'll do just a bit of a working holiday. And I was only planning to
Mm.
stay there for 3 months. Um, and yeah, so I ended up staying there 10 years. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. But you ended up like, you went up north. Did you
Yeah.
originally go up north? Is that where you arrived
Yep.
into?
Yeah. That's where
Yeah.
I originally
Okay.
went. I started just I went over there just teaching English because just part time because I just wanted a little bit of money while I was sort of traveling around, sort of thing. Um,
Mm.
so I went straight to the first job I went to was in Sendai, in the Miyagi prefecture, and I just stayed there. It's just so easy to live, so convenient. Um, I just didn't
Mm.
want to come back. You know. So, so
Yeah.
much like you, I guess.
Yeah, it's just it's almost like it starts to feel uncomfortable to leave because it's so easy to live. It's like, yeah, if I go back home, then I've got to start worrying about this and that, and also, I've got to watch what I say in public. because you get away with saying a lot in public in Japan.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Just as we
even
go through, just wanted to jump in. I saw Anne mentioning, do we have a topic? And um, just if you've got questions or anything you want to ask, or you want to talk about anything, please put it in the comments. Just put a Q in front of it, Anne. And sorry to interrupt you, DC.
yeah, we will get into how living the carnivore way and some of the things that help make things a bit easier in a minute. We'll just get some background story as well. Um, okay, what specifically makes Japan easy to live? That's a good question. Yeah, Dave,
Well,
you want to go for that one?
Okay, I think the number one thing for me is public transport.
Yeah.
Like, it's just reliable. It arrives on time. Couple of examples of how good it is like the bullet train. It's 2.5 hours from Osaka to Tokyo. You can fly in an hour, but you end up saving time because you don't have to worry about checking in and your bags and security and the delays and all this kind of thing.
Plus, you
It
have
just
to go to
runs
the
like clockwork.
airport. Yeah, traveling to the
Yeah,
airport and travel from
getting
the
out.
airport.
Yeah,
Stuff. So
it's just
yeah,
like heart of the city to heart of the city.
yeah,
Convenience stores everywhere that are always open, stuff like that.
yeah. It just never
Yeah.
really shuts down in Japan. Plus, you can get things done so quickly, easily, and cheaply. For example, my last trip, just a few weeks ago, I was back in Japan. I had to sort out my foreigner card and my visa and get my re-entry pass extended. It took me 2 hours, like total. Okay, I had to go to a post office to buy a stamp for my visa. Then I take it to immigration, and they processed it. They processed it while I was waiting. In Australia, my wife, she has to renew her visa every few years for re-entry. It costs more money every time. It's quite expensive. Like in Japan, it cost me $50. In Australia, it cost my wife $500. And we wait 6 weeks to get an answer. You know, and you have to go through all sorts of ridiculous hurdles. Things like that make it much easier to live because you get things done very quickly and efficiently.
Yeah.
I find it very difficult to get people to actually do their job in Australia.
Yeah. I
So
think probably the best contrast on something like that I feel is if you're doing anything that's standard in Japan, like putting your application form in, just waiting for the visa, doing whatever the thing is, it's like clockwork. It works perfectly, and there's no hassles like there are at home. But the second you have to do something that's like, a little bit not normal, or you've got a question about something, that's when it's like, oh no, I'd rather be doing this in Australia. Because like then they appreciate that not every situation's the same.
Yeah, that's right. That's a perfect contrast. When it's just something that needs doing and get it done, they're really like clockwork, like you said, just really efficient. Get it done. It's very quick, no hassle. They actually help you to do it. Whereas Australia, they sort of work against you. Service in Japan is absolutely brilliant. And it's what service should be. You are paying them, so they should be, you know, what's the word? When you're paying someone for a service, they should be polite. In Australia, they tend to abuse you if you don't accept their attitude. So it's a little bit crazy here. But again, if you deviate from their, like they'll have a list of rules when they start a job, and they'll stick to those rules without any compromise. For example, when I went to a gym in Japan, one of the rules was to wear a swimming cap because it stops hair getting into the filter of the swimming pool. Now, I don't have any hair. Right? My head was shaved, yet they still made me wear a swimming cap. Okay, because that was the rules. So funny little things like that. But you
Yeah.
can live with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything else is just so much easier. Yeah. So
That's a very Japanese story.
yeah. Do you know any of the language? Do many people speak English? How about you, Dave?
I can get by, like,
Yeah.
but it's it's not that good. I can listen to a business conversation and kind of know what's going on, but I can't really respond because I'm always
Yeah.
second guessing myself or whatever. How's
Yeah.
yours?
Yeah, I'm much the same. You tend to do that too, don't you? You second guess yourself. You think, is that what he really meant, sort of thing, and you sort of bite your tongue. But yeah, I can get by, and yeah, it's not what it should be. But I haven't been there for a long time either, so
Yeah.
I would like to speak more though. Actually, I would like to study more, but that's it's kind of boring studying a language. So it makes it
Yeah.
difficult.
Well, yeah, very, very, very boring. Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, a lot of people in Japan. I mean, they don't speak a lot of English, but they speak enough that you can communicate. And like all your signs and transport and things like that is written in English, so it makes it very easy to get around to if you don't know the language very well.
Yeah.
Right.
Super easy. I think one of the biggest things I noticed, though, like the difference between Japanese and English is in English speaking countries, we're so used to like being surrounded by people of like from all over the world all the time, right? So everyone's got
Yeah.
a different way of speaking English. So when people
Yeah.
speak English to us, if the grammar's not perfect, we can you're putting it together in your head and go, oh, yeah, I know what he means,
Yeah.
right? But that just doesn't happen in Japan. Like if I mess up the grammar in Japanese, they look at me like I've got my arms painted on or my head screwed on
Yeah.
backwards or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, when they speak their broken English, and it's pretty easy to understand. But yeah, if you don't get the Japanese right, it's completely different meaning for some reason. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it is what it is. I mean, it's still, apart from that, I think that's one of the things that also makes it easier in Japan too, because you don't have to really talk to too many people. You don't
No,
get
that's
people stop
true.
you in the street. Yeah, you don't get people to stop you on the street and start talking to you and things like that.
Mhm.
I think it's very easy to be a foreigner in Japan, and it's
Yeah.
comfortable. It's a very comfortable feeling. Um,
Mm.
I just love how cheap it is too, and the quality of food is amazing compared to
Yeah.
Australia. It's
And I
really
think
is.
the cheap thing surprises people because
Yeah,
they have this impression that oh my everything is just so expensive in Japan, right?
yeah.
But
Because they
I
listen
mean,
to media and Hollywood and stuff like that, and they always say like it's the most expensive city, country in the world. It's total garbage. It's far cheap. I find things on average are like 5 times cheaper in Japan than they are in Australia. It's
mm,
not.
yeah.
Like even like the
Yeah.
100 yen store in Japan, like everything's 100 yen, which is about $1 Australian. Here it's $4. You know,
Yeah.
so crazy. Even like Australian beef is cheaper in Japan than it is in Australia. You know,
Oh
it's
wow.
crazy. Yeah,
I've never done the comparison, but yeah, I mean, I can believe it. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, look, like I said, I was just there again a couple of weeks back,
Mm,
and the same cut of meat was actually cheaper in Japan than it was here, and
yeah.
from supermarket to supermarket. Um, so
Yeah.
I don't know how that happens. You
So
can have a sorry.
go ahead.
I was going to say you can even have a pet kangaroo in Japan, but you can't have a pet kangaroo in Australia.
I didn't know about the
It's
pet
crazy.
kangaroo thing. That'd be cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, you see it all the time. Like, there's pet shows they have in Japan. There's animal shows on TV.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes they'll catch them, and then you see like a few of them have got pet kangaroos. Yeah, it's really cool.
Oh,
Well, I think they're
but yeah.
wallabies actually because they're a bit smaller, but yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Like quokkas or something. Um,
No, wallabies
so
are quite popular.
like the thing here as well is like what this cost me 17 years ago for a bottle of water, it's still the
Yeah,
same price,
mm,
you
yeah.
know? So it's
Even you go to the
equivalent to about
airport.
a dollar
Yeah,
20.
even
Mm.
in tourist places, like you go to the airport, like Narita Airport, one of the biggest international airports in the world. You can still get like a bottle of water for $1, from the vending machine.
Mm, mm,
In
mm, mm.
Australia, if you go to you're paying $6 for a bottle of water. You know,
It's
it's crazy.
insane.
It's insane.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I laugh at people who buy alcohol from duty free because alcohol in Japan is like dirt cheap. You could go to
Mm,
pretty
mm.
much anywhere. There's convenience stores sell it. You can get a 500 ml can of beer for $1. It's just it's insane. But
Yeah.
here, my God, I can't understand how people can afford to drink alcohol in Australia. Things like that.
I
But
when I was there about a month and a half ago, I kind of understand how people can afford to do anything in Australia. The
yeah,
prices were just, you know, my
mm,
my recent credit card bill, I was kind of shaking my head, because I was eating like it was in the middle of Sydney, and I was having a nice steak for lunch and a nice steak for dinner every day. And
yeah.
the most recent credit card bill that came in, I was going, oh, this is Sydney.
Yeah, it's crazy. I did a couple of videos on the Yakiniku Tabe holidays in Japan
Mm,
because all this BS about blue zones, that came out recently.
mm, mm, mm.
Um, but like, for some of the Tabe holidays, one actually in particular we went to, they have like a 5 hour limit, and starting price is like $12 Australian, with just
5
pork meat.
hours?
Yeah, 5 hours. Yeah,
So
shab
all
shab it
you can eat meat for 5 hours?
for 5 hours. Yeah, shab it.
Wow.
Yeah, like that's just with pork and chicken. But if you get the beef, it's $20 for the 5 hours. But I think for
That's still
$20,
cheap as
all you can
chips.
eat. Yeah, yeah, that's cheaper than the chips. Like
Yeah,
you can't even get chips that cheap in Australia. So,
yeah.
it's crazy. Yeah,
So when I first arrived in Japan, I used to go to a particular all you can eat barbecue restaurant, Yakiniku restaurant in Shinsaibashi in Osaka, and it was $35. It was all you can eat for it was like 2 hours, but if the owner was there, he liked speaking English, so he would let us just sit there. And but that also included your drinks, and it was just like
yeah,
all you can drink for the same time as well. And it was like,
yeah,
we're Australians, so we're just going crazy on this stuff, and like we're
yeah.
always looking at each other, going, "This would never work in Australia,"
No,
because people would
you
just be
couldn't do it
going
in
in
Australia.
like, Where's the drip? Plug me in," like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. We did. We actually all the whole 2 weeks we were there. We were going to Yakiniku Tabahoda, Shabu Shabu, and these other places. And they're just everywhere. These steakhouses and these tabahodas. The best one we went to was about $35 for 100
Mm,
minutes. But beautiful cuts of meat, and it just keeps coming out. Like as soon as you order it, like 2 minutes later, it's on your table. You know, and it just keeps on coming and coming. Like 50 minutes into 100 minutes, I was so stuffed. I just could not fit anymore. And I'd eaten nearly a kilo of meat, and I think it's so easy to do like one meal a day. Well, in Japan, it's so cheap that if you count the time that you put into like cooking, cleaning, um, going shopping for the for steak and things like that, it's cheaper to actually go to a restaurant, a table holiday, and eat one meal a day in Japan than it is to go shopping and eat at home. You know, it's incredible.
Definitely.
Yeah.
There's a comment from Jeannie there at 550. She says, "Holy crap, $20 for all you can eat meat. Where do I sign up?"
Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, like the Yakiniku table holiday is like a barbecue. They have it like a fire pit in the middle of the table, and you just you get these small cuts and just fry a little bit at a time and eat like that. The shabu shabu is like a big pot, like a big cook pot they put in the middle, and it's like you dip it in water and like boiling water and with stock and eat it that way. It's just such a great way to eat. Actually,
So,
I love it.
which one do you prefer, shabu shabu or yakiniku?
I prefer the yakiniku. I don't know. It's just barbecue is always a better, good flavor. But
I
I
mean,
love
for me,
dip
it's more
it in
about
egg.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yakiniku is just better for me because then you don't have to worry about what's in the broth and all that kind of thing. It's just like it's on the grill and it's done. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
We went to
No, I
one the
agree.
other night and I had liver for the first time at a yakiniku. It was
Oh, okay.
I really enjoyed it. It was really nice.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. I don't know. Just the freshness of the meat you get over in Japan, the quality. I don't like organ meat here in Australia, but in Japan I have no problem with it.
Yeah.
So
So there's
yeah,
a
that's a
there's a yakiniku restaurant. There's a yakiniku restaurant in Osaka that's just organ meat. So it's just hormone.
oh wow. Yeah.
And the name of it is Guts. Guts.
Perfect. That's great.
the,
I
the
love some of
Guts
the names
barbecue
they come up
restaurant.
with. Yeah. I love some of the names they come up with.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another funny thing about Japan is you get these funny name signs everywhere. They try to use English names for the business and things. That's kind of funny. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I love that about Japan. It's very cheap, very high quality meat, and another thing I noticed was the supermarket we went to, like half of it was meat, and it's so much variety. You got so many different
Mm.
seafoods and like beef, pork, and chicken, and all that sort of stuff as well. And of course, all the organ meat, but the raw dairy products as well. The raw dairy butter and things like that. Just
Mm.
brilliant. Yeah, and again, so cheap. Eggs, eggs here at the moment are like $4.50 for 12 eggs. You know,
450
um,
for 12 eggs. Well,
yeah,
that
it's
and
about
it's
500 yen,
almost one for one. Is it almost one for one now?
pretty much.
Australian dollar to
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
That's expensive.
that's expensive. Like that's double the price
Mm.
in Japan. So yeah, it's crazy.
So the thing that always made me laugh in Australia when I was there a few years ago was you go to the supermarket, like you go to Coles or Woolies or something, and they sell the mince, the ground beef, and they've got the percentages of fat in them, and the ones that
Yeah,
have got 30% fat or something, they're always no one wants them. They all want the
yeah,
leanest cut they can get. So
yeah,
like for a carnivore, it's paradise.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
just stock
yeah. It's
up.
cheaper to get the fattier stuff. So yeah,
Mm,
I was the same though before carnivore. I sort of avoid. I tried to stick to the leaner stuff, but yeah,
mm,
not now.
yeah,
How
same.
did
I
how did
was
you
like chicken eater before. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah. No, you're right. How did you find carnivore yourself?
So, it was by accident, really. I I went keto, and that was to kind of give me some self control. So I'd been on and off keto and low carb for 20 years, more than 20 years. And I knew that when I was on it, I had a lot of self control, and I needed to kick the sugar, and I needed to kick the alcohol. And I thought, well, this is the only way I'm going to do it. And it was either that or go on meds to do it. And I didn't want to do that. So
Yeah,
I got on keto, and it went quite well. I managed to stay away from the alcohol, stay away from the sugar. But I was, having a bit of a problem with some of the vegetables I was eating.
yeah,
They weren't agreeing with me, and I didn't know it was the vegetables at the time. So I'm just searching on YouTube for why is this happening? Why am I in the bathroom more than I want to be? And I found a Ken Berry video where he was talking about the problems that the particular vegetables I was eating would cause potentially. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll just give these up for a while and see if that's what it is. And I gave them up for a while. And in the process of giving them up and getting the relief that I wanted, I was now down the rabbit hole of YouTube. And so all these carnivore videos started coming up from, Sean Baker and all these other places. And so just kept watching them and going, okay, well, this is the way I'm going now. And yeah, I've just been carnivore since then. So yeah, that's
yeah.
been about 17 months now.
I think yeah, that's carnivore has been brilliant. I mean, for me, it's been amazing. But I think in Japan, it's it's easy on one hand to be a carnivore because the quality of meat, how cheap it is, especially like if you just eat out, you go to Yakiniku, etc. Um,
Mm,
but like these places in Japan that have these buffets, they also have like buffet suites as well.
mm,
And there's so many beautiful bakeries and like these cafes that are all you can eat sweet buffets, like cakes and ice cream and all this other stuff as well. And alcohol
mm.
is super cheap. Like it's as cheap as water almost.
Mm.
So I think that makes it very difficult to restrict yourself as well. You know,
Yeah.
so I think you have to be pretty strong to, or at least have a plan in place, like to make sure that you don't, stray off the carnivore sort of diet. You know,
So that was the thing
but
at the start. I was kind of, it's too easy to buy the stuff, especially like alcohol
mm,
wise. It's too easy, and you can drink on the train and whatever, right?
yeah,
So for me, it was I'd be having a bad day at work, and I'd be thinking, okay, it's almost over, and when I leave here, I can get a beer and I can sit on the train and enjoy the beer on the way home. And it was like that's what was getting me to the end of the day.
yeah,
And and then so you walk past the convenience store, and it's like, okay, I'll grab the beer and the chips and the whatever, and that's for
yeah,
my train journey. And so coupled with the keto to give me that little bit more self control, I had to kind of change the way I was walking home and stuff to avoid the temptation of walking past the convenience store, because it's just so easy here.
yeah, yeah. It's so
Mm,
convenient. Even vending machines. Like where I was living, like before the quake, there were two convenience stores within 200 meters, either direction. and in between there was a vending machine. It was just beer, and it had like a 2 liter can of beer for 400 yen, which is like $4 Australian. For
Wow.
2 liters. Yeah. So yeah, that stuff is just so convenient and cheap in Japan. And it's not just beer either. Like you go to a convenience store or even a drugstore, and there's cocktails, there's like shochu, sake, and so many different types of alcohol, like hard spirits and stuff as well. So I think
Yeah.
it makes it very difficult. I mean, it's very common for people in Japan too to, after work they go out and like they do business in a eating and drinking. It's very popular in
Yeah.
Japan to drink. But
Yeah, like it's common for especially the salary man husband to not be getting
yeah,
home till 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, kind of thing, right?
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Mm.
So, and they still don't have the obesity problem that we do, though. Like they have so much more access to all these, sweets, alcohol, and all these other things, but they still don't have
Mm.
the obesity problem that the West does.
What do you think it is then? Because if they've got the same access, what do you think is making it not as bad?
Well, I don't think they have as much. I mean, they do have a lot of processed food, but they generally like I said, like the restaurants, they have much more variety. Like
Mm.
it's so cheap to go and eat, or you can eat meat. They do eat a lot of meat, um, and they don't eat so much. Like, I mean, there's KFC and there's Hungry Jacks and there's McDonald's and things like that, but then they're not the most popular sort of places. I think that's one
Mm.
thing. They don't eat as much. So processed oil sort of foods like snack bars and things like that. Generally speaking,
Mm.
but I think they also they take responsibility for themselves as well. Their appearance,
Mm.
for one, um,
Mm.
and it's very important for them to. On average, I think their health is very important to them as well. So that
Mm.
they're sort of more responsible, I think.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think generally speaking, they're better at moderation.
Yeah.
Like, just comparing this to myself, I'd be thinking if there's a bowl of candy in front of me in the before times, I'd be like, oh, I'll just have one and I'll take one, and then it'll just be one more and one more and one more. Like, whereas a
Yeah.
Japanese person will go, I'll have one and that's it.
That's it.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
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 Mm.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that
For sure.
helps a lot.
Yeah. I don't think they don't make as much allowances either for being unhealthy, you know.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
you have to walk everywhere. You have to there's a lot of stairs. If you go to Japan, you have to be prepared to take a lot of stairs. So
Mm.
yeah, there's that part too. They're very active. Even
Mm.
even the ones who don't do sport, they are just generally speaking very active people.
Yeah. I
So
mean, it's
I
not
think that
hard to
helps a
get
lot.
an hour of walking in every day, right?
No,
Because
that's
you
right.
just do it naturally. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, just to get around. So
Mm.
yeah. So I mean, they have I guess the same problems the rest of the world does, but for some reason I think that is probably the biggest reason why they don't have as many problems as we do, um,
Mm.
health wise. Um,
Mm.
so when you when did like so you started Carnivore about 17 months ago.
Yeah.
What have you
So
noticed has
June last
changed?
year.
Yeah. So what's changed for you in that time?
Lots of things. So I don't have arthritis anymore. I had really bad arthritis in my left knee. That's gone, and that's probably the biggest thing for me.
Yeah.
Because that was making it so difficult to move around, so difficult to do my job, just difficult to sit in one place was,
Yeah.
and, especially navigating stairs. So that's like I'm a master of stairs now.
Yeah.
I
Great.
can up and down the stairs like, nobody's business. But like the thing people talk about regarding things like brain fog and stuff, like I can think more clearly. Um, I'm better at kind of looking at a situation objectively and not
Yeah.
kind of jumping in and going, what does this mean to me? Okay, I need to be involved and get really irritated about things and try and sort this out so that I don't get more work out of this, whatever. And what else? Oh, gum disease is gone.
All right.
Like bleeding gums, sensitivity, and all that kind of thing. And like I had really bad breath before, which I
Yeah.
guess is the sugar just fermenting away. And
Yeah.
my wife would, like, when I was standing close to my wife, I'd start talking. She would literally go, "Oh," like that, because of the smell.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that doesn't happen anymore. It's
Oh, that's
just
good.
everything's cleared up.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Are there
There are
obese
obese
people
people.
there? If so, how are they treated? Um, yeah, I mean, of course, there are some, but it's actually quite rare, I think. I mean,
Mm.
Japanese anyway. Foreigners, yeah, but I think it's pretty rare actually. Japanese obesity.
It's like almost like going back 40 or 50 years in Australia or America when there was like one fat kid at school.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you didn't see many people around, but I
yeah.
think they are treated differently though.
Oh, of course, because I
Like
mean,
they're
I
called
I
out to
think
their face.
yeah, like they're more. I think
Mm,
another good thing actually is that Japanese are very honest. They're very honest about it.
mm,
You know, they do get called out to their face, but yeah, they don't take it to heart either. They like a lot of
no,
comedians in Japan. Some comedians are quite obese, and like they use that as a joke. That's yeah.
mm,
They don't cry about it. They're just honest about it.
yeah.
Um,
There
so I
used to
think
be
they've
a
got a
TV
great sense
show
of
on here.
humor. Yeah, yeah,
There was a TV show on here called Debuya, like literally fat shop. And it was just like three or four fat people going into gourmet restaurants or whatever and going, "Oh, this is delicious." Um,
yeah,
but yeah, like I'd been in Japan for about a year, and
mm,
I was putting on weight because I wasn't moving at all and I was eating junk. And I went into the
mm.
local convenience store and the lady behind the counter looked at me and she said, "Saikin futorimashita ka?" It's like, lately, did you put on weight? Or
yeah,
no, literally, lately, did you get fat? And
yeah,
I was like taken aback because, you know, coming from Australia, that's kind of a confronting question. But that's the kind of question you get asked in Japan, right? They don't hold
yeah.
back.
That's
It's not
right.
like,
No,
"Oh, you're just big boned" or something like that. It's like, "No,
yeah,
you got fat, man."
yeah, yeah. They've got that same sort of honesty that a 5-year-old kid has. Yeah, and
Yeah,
they would look at you and say, "Oh, wow, you got fat." I love that.
that
You know,
that's a
they
good
don't
way
make
of,
so
yeah,
many allowances. Yeah,
yeah.
so you just gotta. I mean, you just gotta. Coming from Australia, it's kind of difficult to adjust, but you gotta just get used to the fact that they don't mean anything bad by it. They're not trying to be mean. They're just being honest.
Mm,
So I
yeah.
love that.
It's
Yeah. 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 Um, what was it? I was going to ask another question. Oh, so the first few months, uh, how did you feel when you were transitioning? Like you're going from a low carb sort of keto diet anyway, but
mm.
how did you feel the first few months while on carnivore?
I think I had it easier going into carnivore for two reasons. The first one was that I think my body kind of already knew what it was doing because I'd been on keto and low carb so much. Yeah, I think I've lost my train of thought now, but there were two reasons, but I'll go with one. So yeah, I think I had it easier because of that, but I reckon probably I would say for the first 1 to 3 months, that's probably the best I've ever felt.
Yeah.
It was almost euphoric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
think
just
you
get these
notice.
kind of moments and go, "Oh, wow." And I still
Yeah.
feel good, but I don't feel it like that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Mm.
in the first few months, you notice the difference in feeling so much more. You're more sensitive to it because
Mm.
you're just coming from like feeling basically like crap, and then like all of a sudden you feel, wow, I feel so much energy, or I feel really great, or I'm not getting pain.
Yeah.
I know some people get feeling like flu symptoms and things like that. Um,
Mm.
but it's always a transition time, too. The first few months where your body's sort of changing from like a carb energy to fat energies and that sort of thing. Some people feel a
Mm.
bit low on energy, it's a bit sleepy, or a bit fluey, but your body's going through so many changes. Like things like arthritis. I notice a lot of people say that their joints feel so much better. I think a lot of that is because of
Yeah.
oxalate dumping as well. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's almost a feeling like you're eating more saturated fat and your saturated fat is oiling your joints or something, because like the arthritis, often it's like, and certainly for me, it was like bone on bone kind of pain.
yeah.
And for that to lift is just life changing.
Well, I think that a lot of that is oxalates. Like oxalates are like
Mm,
crystals. They form like crystals in your joints and things like that.
mm,
Um,
mm.
so it feels like that. But
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is when you go carnivore, you're healing your lymphatic system. Because, like you are, we are built to absorb fats, animal fats. That's where it in our digestive tract we absorb all that animal fats into our lymph fluid in our lymphatic system,
Mm,
and that's where we get our vitamins, minerals, proteins. That carries our white cells and everything else. It just gets pushed around the body.
mm,
But the lymphatic system is also the sewage system of your body as well. So it takes away all the waste. So I think
mm,
that sort of helps clear when you're going through that oxalate dumping sort of phase. You are healing your lymphatic system and you're getting rid of those oxalates as well.
mm.
So it kind of feels like you're lubricating your joints. Basically, what you're doing is those joints are finally getting the nutrients that the vitamins, the minerals they're supposed to get from animal
Mm,
fats,
mm.
and proteins. Whereas
Yeah.
before, most of our food is processed, so we're getting all these so-called vegetable oils, which are machine oils, basically, because that's what they started life as, machine oils in factories and whatnot. Um,
Mm,
and you just can't. Your body is not meant to absorb these fats. It's like deep frying your food in 20 weight engine oil. It's just not going to be
mm.
healthy, is it? So you get all these
No.
problems.
Mm.
So when you start healing your lymphatic system and everything else sort of, and you get all the right minerals and vitamins to your hormones, and everything just starts to feel more alive.
Yeah.
It's a
So actually, on the topic of seed oils, you interviewed Chris Kenobi on your channel recently, right?
not yet. I will. I did
Oh,
a thing on him. I did do a video on seed oils though with Chris Kenobi is part of it, but I will be interviewing him
okay.
soon. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I'd like to get him on as well because I saw him speak at Low Carb Down Under,
Oh yeah, it's great.
and his take on seed oils is really interesting.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
he co-authored the book Ancestral Diet Revolution, I think it's called.
Mm.
And his co-author, Suzanne Alexander, she's great as well. I'll be talking to her as well. So, but separately,
Mm. Mm.
they recently just came back from a trip in the Pacific. They were visiting all these native tribes and researching their diets. Trying to find it because they don't have any of the obesity or other diseases that Western society has. So they've been researching um, their diet in person. So
Mm.
yeah, hopefully I'll be talking to them very soon. Actually, I'll be looking forward to that one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
but these seed oils, basically, they started coming about, and these so-called vegetable oils, which are just machine oils, they started coming about like in the late 1800s, about 1880s, 1890s. Then in like early 1900, there was soy protein oil. Okay, soy oil. Um, Now they at the time they were just used for in like lubricants in machinery in factories and things like that, processing plants. In With soy was mainly used for packaging, and
Mm.
back in the 70s they did a study because they were worried, they were concerned that some of the packaging might flake off and get into the food supply, is bad because soy is carcinogenic and they don't know how it might affect the human hormones.
Mm.
Um, Now it's in everything. It's in absolutely everything. Everything is processed. Even if you go to a supermarket and get beef jerky and pork jerky meat, okay, they are enhanced with soy protein. Okay, even
Mm.
so-called health food like protein bars and protein powders, they have these soy proteins in them as well. Um,
Mm.
so there was also a study done in 2020 in Japan, actually, where scientists actually changed the sex of fish by feeding them soy. So that they actually made
Really?
yeah, they turned male fish into female fish simply by feeding them soy. So
And
you can see what soy does to the human body.
so it
It's a
makes you
carcinogen.
wonder. It makes you wonder if the reason there's quite a lot of female characteristics about the younger male population here is something to do
Yeah,
with the love of tofu and all that kind of stuff.
yeah, yeah, exactly right.
Um,
You know, that's what
mm.
when I was coaching in Japan, I always told them, just avoid soy at all costs because it makes them feminine.
Mm.
When I was coaching athletes, they kept asking me, like, what's wrong with soy, because they grew up on that sort of stuff, and I said, well, there's nothing wrong with it if you don't mind breastfeeding your children, you know. Um, but the thing is, you don't want men doing that, you know. Um, and it's apart from that, I mean, it destroy. I mean, it apart from the effect on your hormones and your testosterone, it's a carcinogenic as well.
Mm.
It damages your lymphatic system, okay, which affects your
Mm.
hormone production and everything else. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just something you have to. And why you have to ask, why do they go out of their way to enhance meat products like jerky with soy? You know, so
Yeah, it's in yeah. Some of the I mean, I always put it down to money, but it could be something more than that. But you know,
yeah,
somehow
I
they've
mean, the
worked
thing
out
is,
it's
like,
cheaper to enhance it that way, or gets people more
yeah,
addicted, or something.
well, I mean, you got to ask, like, why do products that have like 50 different ingredients cost more than something that only has one ingredient? You know,
Mm.
and a lot of it comes down to they are subsidized. But again, why are they subsidized? You know?
Yeah.
So
Well, isn't that where high fructose corn syrup came from, because of the subsidies on
yep,
corn? Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
That's banned
So
in Australia, by the way, isn't it?
yeah, I think
High
so.
fructose corn syrup. Yeah. Because I think
Yeah.
it's still legal
I
in
mean, it's still
Japan.
in high processed foods though. So
Mm.
I don't know how much they actually regulate that. I
Mm.
mean, I don't think they sort of worry about it because there's soy and everything now too.
Yeah. Whoops.
But honestly, it's just crazy. But I think that's why when people go to carnivore, the reason you feel so much better is because you're starting to heal your lymphatic system. Because the problem is that the lymphatic system can't tell the difference between these highly processed vegetable oils and seed oils and whatnot and animal fats. It just absorbs fats, and that's what it does. That's where we're supposed to. But the only problem is that from these seed oils, apart from the fact that they're toxic, they just don't have the vitamins and minerals that our body needs for our immune system, our regeneration of bone, muscle tissue, and connective tissue. The lymphatic system can't get rid of the waste quick enough, so you build up oxalates and things like that, and hormone production as well. So
Yeah.
here you go. Here's Larry.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey,
Sorry about
Larry.
the time
Nice to meet you.
confusion there, Larry. How you
Good to
doing?
meet you, man. I'm a fan. How you doing?
Good. Good.
You don't know Dave Mack?
Yeah, I'm
Is
a
your first
fan. We haven't met, but I've watched.
yeah. He's got a
But
great channel.
first time. Yeah. Yeah. Very
Yeah,
nice to meet you.
I'm not sure.
So, what time is it there, Larry?
1:30 or 1:23 in the morning.
Oh, wow. Oh,
I set
you
my
thank you for
alarm.
joining in.
Yeah, I'm a retired Army guy, so I can get up anytime and go. That's just the way it is.
Okay.
Good man. Yeah.
Nice.
Actually, I'll bring up his channel. You guys should check out these channels. Let's see.
So what's the topic, guys? What you guys talking about?
We were just talking about transitioning onto the carnivore diet and how it has helped like heal our lymphatic systems, and we're talking about seed oils and things like that as well.
Oh yeah, seed oils. That was one of the biggest revelations for me, because I had heard seed oils were bad when I was keto, but I didn't really realize how bad they were until I saw Dr. Kenobi. I guess that's how you say it.
That's right. Yeah.
Chris Kenobi's video, and I was like, wow, it was just eye-opening. I watched that thing like 5 times, and it just changed. Thanks, man. That's great. It just really changed my my whole outlook on everything. That, and then I went down the cholesterol rabbit hole, and so I retiring Army. So I retired Army in 2019, and I had seen through my career, especially as it went up and upping rank and ended up at division headquarters as signal chief for the division, right? So I was designing networks I was an IT guy. So I designed networks for a division when we deployed and stuff. I'd seen the military industrial complex and how it was used to make money for people, back home. And I got kind of disillusioned. I was like, 'cause I came in back in the 80s when the Soviet Union was the evil empire. And I really believed, I was a true believer. And I became disillusioned in the end of my career. And then after that, to have the COVID thing happen and get disillusioned in pharmaceutical, and now the food industry disillusioned in the food industry. It's the same animal. It's all different chemicals. And it's just so mind blowing that everything is kind of like the Matrix, right? It really is. It's a red pill moment for me. So
and once your eyes are open, it's hard to close them, right?
Absolutely, 100%.
You can't. That's why they don't want you to open your eyes.
Not if you have a soul and a brain. If you have a soul and a brain and connect those two things, you can't not do it, right? I mean, that's why I'm doing a YouTube channel. Never intended on doing a YouTube channel at 57 years old, right? That's just not in the game.
Yeah. Actually, Larry, Dave is in IT as well.
Oh, cool, man. What do you do?
Yeah, I'm a little bit out of it now, but I was a programmer, database programmer. Before it became defunct, I used to program in Microsoft Visual Fox Pro.
Oh wow, yeah, that's some old school stuff. I've done some old database stuff. I did a transition from OS 400 to a PIC database. I know this is not what we're supposed to be talking about here, but I did that for a police department. I did 5 years at a local police department when they're switching they have what's called a 911 in America. 911 is who you call when you need the police. So we have a 911 emergency record system. So it would record every piece of data that went out to the police officer and went to everyone put into the call. So I did that. It was a multi-value database. So I'm not a DBM or anything by any stretch. I'm more of a system administrator / network engineer. So, but I have dealt with some database stuff. I understand your job.
Yeah. So, yeah, but kind of that language became defunct, and then I was like, oh yeah, I'm done.
You're done.
Just yeah. Peter the Dutch Carnivore says he's a Fortran programmer. Excuse me, I'm just going to mute my mic for a second. I've just got a call coming through I need to take. Sorry.
All right.
No problem, mate. Yeah, you're right.
I studied Fortran in college. So that's what I learned how to program in. Actually, I learned my first language was like basic and machine language back in the 80s, early 80s, and when I was a high school kid. And then in college, I took Fortran because that's what we had to in the 90s, early 90s. So yeah, a dead language, but it was interesting.
Yeah. All right. So for those who don't know you, Larry, you want to tell them a bit about yourself? When you started Carnivore?
I already went over. I'm a retired U.S. Army Chief Warrant Officer. I've been Carnivore since March 22nd of 2023. I started at 280 pounds and went down to 234 pounds. So I've lost 46 pounds. And, weight's the big flashy thing, but it's not really the weight that made the huge difference in me. It's the weight did make a difference, but it's everything else. Not just lost weight, but I put on muscle and bone density. I feel athletic again at 57 years old, which is amazing. My sleep quality is amazing. No more depression. Anxiety levels gone. Just mental clarity came back. Arthritis gone. I hadn't been able to run since 2017 because of injuries I received when I was active duty. And today I ran sprints. I started running sprints, and fantastic feeling. So yeah, to be back and healthy is just so compelling. Between the change in my body and also the change in some friends that I talked to about it, and they experienced the same thing. And I'm like, wow, this can't be this can't be some coincidence. This is real. And then that, and then the knowledge of, seed oils, the lies in our food, the lies in our pharmacy, the lies. I just said, I got to do something. So I decided to make my first video August 7th, I think was my first video. So, and I used my IT skills, which are semi limited with video, but still I do understand the technical part, and just started cranking videos out. And yeah,
you guys should check out his channel. Actually, it's really well set up too. It's very cool. Lots of great content. So
my focus, to be honest, my real focus is I have a heart for veterans and first responders, because I have worked in law enforcement doing the database, and I am a veteran and worked with veterans for a long time. And I know we have a higher suicide rate in these communities. And after doing some research, I'm not a research scientist or anything, but I've read papers from the NIH here in America, and basically point to a low blood serum cholesterol level, leading to people being violent, basically taking their lives in violent ways, and being unpredictable. I guess I know it's a lot of mental health is driven from low cholesterol, and yet we keep pushing the government. I say the government in America pushes a low cholesterol diet down our throats. Eat oatmeal, eat terrible cereals because they'll lower your cholesterol. And as cholesterol has gone down over the years, which it has, we've seen suicide rates go up, and disproportionately so in these communities. So I have what's called Mission Carnivore, which is a podcast and video series where I interview military and first responders who have gone carnivore to find out if their lives changed like mine did. And guess what? They did. So this is it's a real tool. It's the first tool I've had in the toolbox that I feel is actually proactive and can make changes put a dent in this number. We have in America, we say 22 veterans a day take their lives. And a lot of people think that's conservative because the state of California and the state of Texas don't report the same way. And it's also conservative because a lot of people who overdose are not considered suicides. Yet those are self-medicating people, right? That have mental issues. I guarantee you, from a lot are.
For sure.
So it's a low number to say 22 a day. And it can't just be America. I'm sure the UK, Australia, all the Western nations that are on this diet and have been putting their veterans through the ringer, and their law enforcement through the ringer. I mean, for the last decade. Or last couple decades. So that's my focus. Is I really focus on those communities. And if you are a veteran and you're watching this, check out my channel. See some of the interviews with other veterans and see how it has changed their mental outlook, their ability to cope. It's put a lot of people on the right path.
I mean, cholesterol is so important. And this is something people don't understand, and I completely understand why they don't understand. But the fact is, these numbers, when you get people, one thing I've noticed about the carnivore diet, or any diet really, people just get obsessive about their blood markers, right? Unless you are like myself, I don't think you really need to get your blood checked all the time. But you have to. You also have to remember that these numbers are set by a very corrupt medical system that wants your cholesterol low for a reason. And all these other numbers are basically set on a BMI standard as well. So it doesn't take into account the individual. It just measures them against the general population. But there are studies, cholesterol. There's never been a study that has actually linked cholesterol to anything negative, but high cholesterol. But low cholesterol, there were studies done in the 90s, 2013, and again 2019.
Those are what I studied. Yes, you're right. That's them.
That specifically linked suicide and depression to a low cholesterol diet.
Yes.
And I think one of the things about one of the most common things that people feel when they go carnivore is that brain fog lift. A lot of that is because when you are on animal fats and you're healing your lymphatic system, you develop ketones and things like that, and these all get sent to the brain. Okay, you can think better, you can think clearer. So, they don't want you thinking clear. They don't want you thinking at all, and they don't want you healthy. They want you sick. So there's a reason why they want you to have low cholesterol.
Putting my conspiracy theorist hat on again, which I like to do sometimes. It's funny because they have a hammer called a statin, and the nail is lowering your cholesterol, and that's all they know how to do. So they can make money lowering your cholesterol, right? Just like the CO2 global warming thing. It's a metric they can measure that they can put dollars against. And that's why they hit it so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And the trouble is, everything is nuanced, right? But when you take into account the nuance of any particular person's situation, suddenly they're not as valuable as a patient anymore.
No.
Right.
Well, actually, I was talking to a very good guy just last night. He's a GP here in Australia. Another thing is, a lot of doctors, they're not. I mean, they're educated to believe these numbers. That's what their education, is all about. Keeping you in these numbers. They think they're keeping you healthy. Most of them, but it's not very incentivized to get people off medications, because they get more money when you have a repeat customer. When you have someone that keeps coming back, if you get them healthy, then they're going to stop coming and seeing you. Yeah. So they're not really
And
incentivized to get you healthy.
yeah, it's also that, just prescribing a drug is super time efficient.
Oh,
You can
yeah.
get much more patients through doing that than sitting down and saying, okay, tell me about your problems. Tell me what your situation is.
You can
That's going to take a
you
really
can get
long
them in and
time.
out in 5 minutes. Give them a drug. Okay, on your way. It's all good. You get a repeat customer. You get paid, and the quicker you do it, the more people you can see.
Yeah.
So that's the thing.
The standard of care is set by medical schools, which are paid for by pharmaceutical companies. So they've set the standard of care, and that's everything from cancer to blood sugar to whatever. They set the standard of care.
It doesn't matter what your illness is. Yeah,
no,
these pharmaceutical companies, they set the standard of care, and so doctors just follow that. It's like we were just talking to Dave's in Japan. So we we're talking about, like, in Japan, when you start a job, you have like these list of rules. They follow them. They don't deviate. And that's the problem with the standard of care in the medical system. They don't deviate. They don't look at the individual. They look at you as a number. This is the plan, and this is what they follow through. Like with my treatments, like, you guys know I did 3 solid years of chemotherapy. Even though like the second lot, the bendamustine, the clinical trial, they knew it was doing nothing. It was doing nothing, but it almost killed me a few times. But they didn't deviate at all. They just kept it going, because that was the standard of care. That was the plan. It's kind of like paint by numbers.
What's
those
even
are
more
the
serious
steps they've been taught.
Exactly.
Yeah. And what's more serious than that, in America, I'm sure Australia and UK are the same. I'm not. I'm not certain, but in America, if my son, who's 14, got cancer, I have no choice. They do the standard of care, or he is removed from my custody.
Same
Because
here in Australia.
it's neglect, right?
Yeah, it's the same.
The law. And I had no clue, because I've never had a kid with cancer, right? And I think most of us haven't. But if you become the parent that does, you get woke up real quick that you don't have a choice. The system takes over your kid.
Yeah, which is just so wrong. It's I mean, I saw this a lot when I was in treatment. I was staying at a foundation called the Leukemia Foundation, because we didn't have anywhere to live. But I saw so many kids going through this treatment, and it's so brutal. They can't. Kids, they're so fragile. They can't handle that kind of treatment. So it's very rare for them to actually make it through.
Yeah,
but that's just that they don't deviate, and the law takes over, and like you said, you have no choice when you have a kid with cancer.
And now I see commercials all the time, which I've seen all my life growing up, like commercials for money being donated to cancer studying and cancer awareness and heart association. And I'm like, these are, like, in my opinion now, evil empires. They're all like more tentacles of the same creature, right? And a lot of people that work there are not. I mean, they're not evil people working there, but the overall entities are not lined up on the side of good, right?
That's right.
And
That they
when
go
you
out of
think
business if you cure it.
Oh, sorry.
day.
And when you think the amount of money that's been donated to these organizations, and the guidelines haven't changed in all those decades that they've been taking donations in, right? So they're still doing the same things that they were
And
doing 30,
cancer
40
rate,
years ago.
cancer rates continue sloping up.
Yeah, that's right.
So where's the why are we doing this? That's just repeating the same thing and expecting a different result, which we know is insanity, right? And it's engineered. These guys are
of
smart.
course it is. I mean, I mean, of course it is, because I mean, we've survived like 5 million years or more, right, without cancer, and yet now, in the last 100 years, we've gone from like a very rare disease to last, I think, a couple of months ago they started trying to their new numbers are predicted like 1 in 2 people will have cancer within their lifetime. So how did that happen? That didn't happen naturally. Okay, I mean, if it was like actually Chafee we were talking about this the other day with Chafee. If it was a genetic disease,
right,
it would be in a family line and it would have died out eventually. It would have died out millions of years ago, because that genetic line would not have survived. So it's impossible to say that it's a genetic disease. It has to be it has to be an environmental thing, like, and seed oils, sugar, and things like that. This only started to rise. It only started to happen. Like, even heart disease was so rare that no one believed them back in the 30s. This only started when they started putting these seed oils and machine oils into our food.
It's true.
Yeah.
I mean, even when I think back to when I was 6, 7 years old, you didn't see getting old as the same thing you see getting old as now. Getting old was just getting old, but now getting old is getting sick.
Frail.
Yes. Yeah, and frail. Yeah, like back in the day, like old people were still working, still doing things, and in Japan they're still doing things. While I was in Japan, you go to these shrines and temples, and you see you're literally climbing a mountain, and then you hit like another mountain of stairs, and you got like 80, 90-year-old people doing this. It's incredible. And they're just so active. They're quite strong. They get around. They walk everywhere. I didn't see one mobility scooter the whole time I was there. Here in Australia, you get a little bit obese and you just get a mobility scooter and it's all good. You don't, your legs retire.
Another tentacle in the machine. This is something. So since my son's 14 now, so for the last 9 years, except for the COVID year, I took him to Disney World every year because there's a military resort there. So I was a vet, so I was able to go inexpensively, or relatively inexpensively. And compared to the first year to now, there's all these disabled people who cut in line that are just in these mobility scooters, and they're just fat. They're not disabled. Their disability is they cannot move around because they're sick. They're metabolically ill.
Unhealthy,
they have metabolic syndrome 100%. And of course the food they feed you there, the same as the standard food, is a terrible diet. But to see the growth in that industry, like there was I think 10 years ago, there was very few mobility scooters. Like people might have brought their own, but now they're in the park and they're just like the grocery store, and they're lined up to help you continue your sickness. Right. It's so awful to see.
Yeah. But, even in theme parks, there are choices. You don't have to have the deep fried in seed oil chips and junk food. That you can go and get a steak. You can get, a decent meal there. So
we're going to bring we're bringing our own food this year, and we're going again this year, and I'm gonna get a hotel that has a little kitchenette, and we're gonna have a fridge and a freezer.
Yeah.
And I'm bringing an air fryer, and we're gonna cook out. And I can't imagine how much money we're gonna save, because what I used to spend on food, because I planned every meal. I was a plans officer, so I'm used to planning stuff, and I would plan all these meals out. These different restaurants would all be advanced reservations, and we do that's part of the experience. And now the experience would just be riding rides and go home and eat, and eat before we leave.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I used to go to Disneyland in Japan actually, and like, we always had a good healthy meal though. Like, we had plenty of buffets and steaks. Meat is just so cheap in Japan. It really is. Even the hotels, the buffets there are super cheap. Actually, the hotel we stayed when we flew there a few weeks back, we stayed in the old Jiao Hotel with had a buffet breakfast. It was like I think it was like $60, $70 for the night, including breakfast, including the buffet breakfast. It's so cheap.
That's awesome.
Yeah, just amazing place. So I don't think it's like in Japan. And Japan's completely different to here. Everything is just so cheap. It's easy to be carnivore, and certainly easy to just to live. Compared to Australia. And
that's
just much cleaner food. Much cleaner food.
It's a misconception here in the States, because in the States everyone thinks, oh, they eat rice and a little bit of fish. And it's like, no. You ever heard of Kobe beef? I mean, that didn't come from America, right? I mean,
no, that's right. Where do you think Wagyu came from?
Wagyu or whatever. Yeah, I mean, these guys are into some beef, and the high quality beef when they eat it, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And pork,
very fatty.
Lots of pork.
Yeah. Lots of fatty meat. Yeah.
But then they'll say, "Oh, but the blue zones, they don't eat meat in Okinawa," and it's like Okinawa eats so much. Okinawans eat so much meat. It's not funny. But I was talking to Peter Ballister the other day, and he was telling me that part of the reason that Okinawa is a blue zone is because when they did whatever they did, the survey or whatever they did to work out they don't eat meat. It was like after the war when there was no pork there and whatever, and
everyone was too poor to eat
it. Yeah, they were too poor. So it's like, at that moment in time they didn't have pork, so it's a blue zone.
Yeah.
A
lot of the questions they asked the people in the blue zone when they did the blue zone study as well, is like, all they did was say, okay, do you eat vegetables and rice? They said, yes, of course they do. But it's only like 10% of their diet.
Yeah.
The other 90% is all meat. So they just omit that part,
Well, it's marketing. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's marketing.
These
studies, I forget. Yeah, they're all marketing studies. They're used to sell food and
well, in this case, they're used to sell control. Like it's just
epidemiological studies are marketing. This leverage.
Yeah.
I always wondered that though, because I would see all these studies come out, and I kind of believed them. This is back when I was on the standard diet. It's like, oh, eat blueberries, and you're going to lower your blood cholesterol. And they're like, oh, eat yogurt, and this is good for you. And then I'd see, oh, eat this, and everything was like. So I thought, well, I just have to eat more of all these things, and I kept adding to that list. A cup of this a day can do this, and a spoonful of this a day, and I just thought, well, if it's a study, it must be real. And that again, the red pill moment, you realize that's all wrong.
Yeah.
But that's like, when you're on a regular diet and all through the 80s and 90s, if you watched Oprah, everything's a superfood.
Yeah.
Like your blueberries or your this or your that, but before you know it,
all of a sudden they're superfood.
About steak being a superfood.
Yeah.
Well, and so I grew up, because I'm 57, so I grew up as a kid in the 70s before the food pyramid came out. So we ate a healthier, whole food based diet for the most part. Even McDonald's French fries only had 3 ingredients back then. They had a potato, lard, and salt. Now they got 19 ingredients, right? They're engineered now. So, I mean, we ate a much healthier food.
They changed their cooking methods too. They've gone from tallow to vegetable oils.
That's one of the ingredients. The ingredients were tallow, salt, and potato. And then they went to vegetable oil plus, 18 other ingredients, including adding sugar. So they can add more salt and then add sugar and get the bliss point perfectly where it's addictive. And they've just dialed that thing right in. And so growing up, though, as a kid in the 70s, none of my friends were fat. We had like a fat kid in the school. We had one fat parent. All the parents were out of shape parents, but they weren't obese, right? We had one obese lady, Mrs. Kaplan. Everyone else was like thin. I mean, and in kind of in shape, right? Some people, like I said, weren't exercise fiends or anything, but I used to be a lifeguard at the pool when I was in high school. And there weren't a bunch of huge people in the pool. That's just not. And people like, oh, people just were ashamed. No, I'm sorry. I knew all my neighbors. They weren't ashamed. They were at the pool. And I watched them. I helped their kids learn how to swim. We were not fat back then like we are now. Now I look at my street here, 70% at least obese.
Yeah. Yeah. If you look at photos, like go to the beach, photos of the beach, like from the 60s and 70s, and it's really rare to find an obese person, even just at the beach. And now,
and people say really they were ashamed. They were fat shamed, is what people say, which is wrong because I grew up in that era. That's not what was going on.
And honestly, I think they should be fat shamed.
Well,
it's not
kind
to
of
a point. I mean, I'm not saying like to be mean. I'm just saying that at that time. I mean, now is different because the food that we are in now is just ridiculous. But back then, there was a reason they were fat shaming, because basically their obesity was their fault. And they also didn't make allowances like for clothes and things like that. So people were more watchful of their weight back then because they didn't want to they wanted to wear decent clothes as well. But it's a different story now. Like these seed oils are in absolutely everything.
It's celebrated now as well.
That's the thing. There's fat pride.
You're healthy at any size.
Yeah, ridiculous.
That's just trying to get us to accept being sick. It's not about fat acceptance. It's about sick acceptance.
Yeah.
Same
with mental health.
You're not plus size. Okay. Yeah. You're dying.
We've got kids identifying as cats in school. I mean, the mental health issue too. There's they should be proud. It's like I just listen.
Any parent that accepts that it's just off the rails. But this mental illness all comes down to the food.
Agreed.
All of it. And there's all this acceptance stuff is about us accepting the fact that we're being sick and insane is a normal thing. They're trying to normalize it. And they're trying to take the blame away from these corporations that produce these foods and put it on us.
That's reality. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Dave.
The thing that worries me about all this now is look at what it's like leadership wise now. What's going to happen when the current Gen Z are the leaders of the world, where they've grown up, where everyone's running around telling them that it's okay to be a cat, it's okay to be obese, all that kind of thing. When these people are leading, it's just going to be a nightmare.
Yeah, something has to change very soon. Otherwise, it's a very bleak future for the humanity.
Yeah. I mean, I recommend people continue to educate themselves, especially if they're new to this diet, and watch the documentaries that are out there, the Fat Fiction, the documentary, those kind of things that kind of show how the tentacles began, like how this, the U.S. McGovern Commission basically set the food pyramid as the standard, and then the low-fat food pyramid as the standard that went through the whole West, including your countries, and just destroyed us as a people. Just because he wanted to run for president and didn't have time to go into wait for data, so they just made a decision and were influenced by keys.
Well, influenced by corporations and things like that too. So.
Yeah, and exactly. Or how our food standards now and our healthy food standards are set by a religious sect that I had no clue of. I tell people that and they don't believe me. I'm like, just go look it up. It's not hidden. It's not even hidden.
That's right.
It's out in the open. So it's pretty crazy. So the religion is our food system.
The thing is too, when it comes to government, for example, no one elected these people to tell us how to eat. That's not their job. Their job is to run the country.
Point.
Right.
No one runs on, when you look at an election, you go to an election, no one runs on, okay, we're going to let you eat meat sort of thing. No one has ever voted anyone to tell us how to eat. It's none of their goddamn business.
Well, that's where the new environmental movement is going, though. So we are going to have people voting to tell us we can eat meat. Right? We're going to have to vote in because they're going after everything now.
Yeah, that's why they're using that for an excuse to tell us how to eat. These so-called think tanks and again unelected think tanks dictating to the world.
Yeah. I didn't vote for anyone in the World Health Organization. Never once.
Or the UN.
Never had the opportunity to vote for or against them. Never.
No, that's right. Here's a question. How are politics in Japan? Are they pushing plant-based eating, meat tax or sugar tax? What do you think, Dave?
Politics in Japan is, it's sedate compared to politics in the rest of the world. I think they've got two sides, just like most places, but one side has been in power for all but one term since the war, and nothing much changes here and stuff, and it's pretty, no one really cares about politics, and so it's easy to switch off. They're not really pushing plant-based as far as I've seen. Some like fast food restaurants like Moss Burger have come out with plant-based burgers, but they don't seem to do very well. And I'm not sure there's a meat tax or a sugar tax. I don't think so.
Taxes have gone up recently, though, in Japan, but not compared to, everything's still extremely cheap compared to the West, like compared to Australia. I think their GST tax is what, 10% now, Dave?
Yeah, 10%.
Yeah. And their wage tax are super low. They, basically, this wages taxes in Japan are almost, you just don't even notice it.
It's nothing compared to Australia.
Yeah. Like here in Australia, like half your wages go on tax. And then you got like a 15% GST on top of that on everything, and it's just crazy. As far as politics, it's pretty much a uni-party, the same as Australia, but they're just not as. I suppose it is getting worse. It is getting as bad as the rest, Western countries, but I don't think you notice it as much because you're starting from a much cheaper, a much much easier going sort of lifestyle to start with. So I think it's far less. It's kind of, some things are really strict, some things are not. But I think a lot of the best thing about Japan is they hold on to their traditions as well. They still celebrate their traditions, their culture, and that the biggest problem Australia has is that they've managed to get rid of that.
I think things will change in Japan, and it'll just take time. Like Japan tends to be like 20, 30 years behind the West, right? As far as the things they do.
Sounds like a place I'd like to live.
Yeah.
And I don't see like our movement and direction we're moving as progress, really. I mean, we have technology, but I mean, things have gotten worse across the board, which is the other thing. You look at the metrics, and it's like, I don't understand how people aren't discontent with what's happening. I mean, in every aspect of life, it's gotten worse. I don't get it, and no one's complaining about it. So I guess people are starting to wake up to it now, but it's I'm dissatisfied with the two-party system, which is really two sides of the same coin. I'm dissatisfied with corporate overreach. I'm dissatisfied with everything, the government reaching into our lives. I mean,
I think government overreach has just gone too far. But when it comes to the two-party system, the problem is it's more of a uni-party because it's okay. So like in America, you have the Democrats and the Republicans, but a lot of Republicans are really Democrats.
They're buddies.
Yeah.
I noticed that when I was
here in Australia,
when I was serving, like throughout the wars, nothing changed after people got nothing significant changed in the military or the wars between these guys. So, these guys would call the other guys warmongers, and they'd come in and do drone strikes. And then the other guys would come in and call people more warmongers, and they'd do drone strikes. So drone strikes are happening either way because General Electric and Martin Marietta are getting paid. And those drones make money, and that's really what it's all about. I'm like, man, this is pretty terrible system.
The parties change, but it's the same lobbyists.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Those are the ones in control. They have the purse strings, right?
Yeah. When you can buy politicians.
Same with the food.
I keep saying to people, you can't lose if you own both teams.
That's what it is.
If you own both teams, like here in Australia, both teams they're swapping over to make it look like they give you the illusion of choice, but they're both working towards the same result.
100%.
And if you're a corporation, you can't lose if you own both sides, do you?
Yeah. So having a young son, it's disturbing to me that he's in this world now. But the thing is, he's a critical thinker. And that's what they don't teach kids critical thinking anymore, but he does. Because I always, whenever we see something, especially if he comments on it, I say, well, let's trace that back. Let's see who's making money. Let's see what's going on. What's the genesis, and go and trace things back and figure out what is actually the cause and effect of this, whatever it is we're talking about, and look at things from all angles and figure it out, just like you do with this diet. And that's why I say you need to continue to educate yourself, because the truth's there. We just have to dig for the tools to get it.
Yeah. Well, like I keep saying to people too, one of the best things we can do to, to fight this is to stay healthy. So, educate yourself, get on the right diet. And I know people have some, they don't like the idea of carnivore diet, but the fact is our body is built to absorb animal fats, and that's where we get it, and proteins, and that's how we survive. That's how we regenerate. That's how we take care of our hormone production and everything else. We cannot avoid it. And the standard diet is killing us. It's got us dying slowly enough that we think we are living,
and slowly enough that they can maximize profits because they get a lifetime subscriber to their prescription. That's right.
Exactly. They've
got a lifetime. Yeah, exactly. So that's what they want. A long-term subscriber.
That's right. Yeah. So I mean, it's we could talk forever on that stuff, but it is what it is. But the thing is, we are changing it, and I think there're going to be a lot of big changes in the coming years. I think we're right on the edge now, because if it doesn't change soon, it'll be too late. But I think there's some big changes coming, you know.
Well, one of the things I like about this community, though, is that there's no leader that they can cut the head off of, and there's no one to follow because everyone who's a leader in this says study, do the research, and the research is there. So if there was like a person we were following and they were able to knock that person out, then we'd be in trouble, right? But what they have is they have the Hydra, every head out there, and we're all pointing to research, to data. And that's it's a critical thing. This is our Copernicus moment, is what this is. Galileo, these guys are thrown in jail for going against the establishment, right? And that's who knows, that may come down the road, but right now, we've got the truth on our side, that the sun is not the center, the earth's not the center of the universe, right? That's our statement now. And we revolve against the sun, and that was so counterintuitive and so against the government and the church that these guys were persecuted and had to go through trials. They were finally vindicated. We will be. It's the same thing, because you can't refute the data.
Yeah. Well, another good thing, though, is now, because of social media and things like that, we have a lot more access to information. And there are enough good people standing up, good doctors who are standing up and showing us the research as well. It's not just a few doctors here and there. There are a lot, and there's so much information that that they can't suppress it. If it was back
and I'm sure it's just going to grow.
Oh yeah,
sure.
The difference between the Copernicus information is, that not everyone experiences orbiting the sun, right? And not everyone was critical thinker, but in this, there's so many data points that's growing. The pool is growing as people change. They join the standard American or standard Australian or Japanese people join this diet, and then they see the changes. And then now you have a point of reference as local, your neighbor, your teacher, whatever. They've seen it, and you see it in person, and you can't deny that. And there's so many data points, and the pool is growing, that it is going to be an undeniable revolution. It is, and there's nothing they can do long term. I mean, I kind of liken it to, like, the cable industry. Cable TV used to own all entertainment, right? And they were the masters. And now the internet came along, and all these little companies started chinking away at that armor, right? All these little streaming companies, and now it's like completely leveled out, and there's no NBC, CBS, and ABC, running the show now. Now it's all these industries, and everyone can choose what they want to watch. It's going to be the same with the food. We're going to see that the chinks are getting shown, and pretty soon it's just going to, the floodgates will break, and they won't be able to hold it back.
No, that's right. So that's definitely a good thing. I mean, like, if this was like back in the 80s and 70s or even 90s, it just wouldn't have progressed. It wouldn't have reached so much, because it just if you write a book, only a certain amount of people are going to read that book. But now with social media, we can get it everywhere. So.
Yeah, it's like in the 70s when the Atkins diet first came out. There's only a certain number of people that are ever going to know about it. But once they started talking about it on the internet, then
and then they put all the disinformation about it, right? So they try to, because the Atkins diet was successful. I did it, but now they're like, oh, he died of a heart attack. No, he didn't die of a heart. He struck his head and slipped on ice, and maybe his heart failed, but if he had never slipped on ice, he didn't die from congestive heart failure or heart disease. A heart attack from hitting your head is completely different.
Yeah, but that's the story that gets out there. The media likes to
story that gets out.
Tear it down.
Of course they do.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, Dave, how long have you been carnivore? I don't know your full story here.
About 17 months now, just over 17 months. Yeah. So been a good 17 months, a nice pain-free 17 months, no arthritis and that kind of thing. So how about you?
Yeah, so March 22nd, so I'm 250 some odd days, and again, pain-free. Today I was doing sprints. I've implemented sprints into my training, and lifting with rubber bands, because I've got injuries from the military, so I can't lift weights like I used to, but I'm getting great results. I'm 6'3", 234 pounds, and I'm built like an athlete again. I feel like an athlete again for the first time in years. And it is an amazing thing to be 57 and doing sprints, because I never thought I'd run again, because my foot was injured so badly from the military that I hadn't run since 2017. So my last 2 years in the Army, I actually had what's called a profile, which means I could walk for my PT test, a speed walk, because I could no longer run. So now I can run again. So I really feel like if I were to go back in the military today, I would be a better soldier than I was my last 2 years, because I could mentally and physically do the job better now at 57 years old. Crazy, right?
Yeah. And how good is that feeling to be able to run again and feel like you're in high school again?
There's a high, a dopamine hit. You get a high when you exercise. I do. I'm sure everyone does. And just to be able to go do that, it's a great feeling. It really is. I put my good music on, and I set my timer, and I run my sprints, and I feel great.
Yeah. It's nice. Just it's great to see so many stories like that too. It's an unbelievable feeling to be moving again. When you've been stuck, or like stuck in bed like I was, or just in pain in general, and your movement is just limited in any way. When you start feeling free movement again and start getting around, it just feels wonderful. It's amazing. You don't really understand what you've got until you lose it.
That's right.
So
I learned that lesson young. I started in my military. I was not Army, I was Navy, and I was on fast attack submarines from 1984 to 1990, doing missions against the Soviet Union. It was really exciting stuff for adventure for a kid. But being underwater and not being able to look outside or see blue sky, green grass, or anything for 3 months at a time sometimes, right? When I came back, I really had a great appreciation. I remember hating to mow the lawn before I left, and coming back and thinking, oh, I can't wait to mow the lawn. This is great. I get to feel grass. I get to, all these things I used to really I did not like. I really had new appreciation. And the same thing with movement. Yeah. If you've been restricted like I had been, and I gave up on it, I thought for sure, literally, I would never run again. Just thought that's just my mindset. And that's a hard mindset when you take that and you think that your life is now like this is your new reality. And then to be released from that, it's so empowering and so freeing. That's part of the mental, motivation that you get when you get in this diet and you can do things again. Your whole outlook on life changes. I'm planning things now that I didn't plan anymore. I feel like I don't know. I basically felt the rest of my life I would just be on this downhill slope and try not to die and try not to get too sick. The rest of I was kind of like just along for the ride. Now I'm in charge. I'm driving and I'm deciding what I want to do.
The outlook on the future is completely different, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, I was just waiting for him to tell me when I need more chemotherapy, or when my day was up, sort of thing. So I really wasn't planning any kind of future more than my next blood test. Now I'm planning a future is a huge difference, a huge it's like starting again,
Yeah. I think I was like planning not to lose too much. I was like, how am I going to minimize my loss for the rest of my life? Whether it's financial or health or whatever. I was just trying to, stabilize and not lose my standard of living.
Yeah.
And now it's like I'm planning on doing things, right? I'm going the other direction. It's a
I've got this whole open highway in front of me.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly right, Dave. Actually, that makes an interesting question there, Larry. When you're on the subs for so long, did they supplement you with vitamin D?
They did not. They did not supplement us with anything.
Wow.
They fed us just so depending on the mission. So I was on a fast attack submarine, which is a very small submarine, 300 feet long, 30 feet wide, 106 guys, you know, and we do these missions. And if we were doing a long mission, they would actually take our refrigerator and turn it into a freezer. So we'd have 2 freezers, and we would have all frozen food. And then we would have dry stores, and we would actually line the whole deck, this one level, with number 16 cans, or these giant cans of food, and put plywood and crouch down and eat our way down to the floor because we couldn't store enough food. That was our limiting factor. We made our own water. We had nuclear power. We made our own air. We had CO2 scrubbers and oxygen generators. So the only thing that limited our mission length was food. So we actually would store all kinds, but we would eat terrible diets, obviously. We'd have a lot of meat. I mean, frozen meat was on the menu, but eggs turned into powdered eggs, you know, when they went bad. Yeah. No veg, which probably is healthy. We didn't know back then. We thought we were being, you know, eating poorly because we didn't have vegetables except for canned veg. We had, I remember, like canned asparagus, terrible, canned green beans, the worst you could think of, right? But we didn't get any supplements. And I remember being like, some of the things I remember was when you're on a submarine that moves, I don't know, there's a movement to the submarine all the time, and there's a vibration. And the first time you step off on solid ground after being for months on a submarine, it's a strange feeling because you step on something that's not moving for the first time. And the first time you get out and stick out, you get the fresh air stinks because you're used to the rancid air you've been breathing, right? Even though we make our air, it's terrible, a lot of diesel oil. And then the first time you try to look more than 100 feet and focus on something, your eyes can't, because your eyes have been trained just to focus within 100 feet. You can't look at anything further away. So it takes a while to get your eyesight back. It takes days. So you're reading signs that are a quarter mile down the road. You can't do that. I mean, at least I couldn't. So it was a different experience for sure. And like I said, it was an adventure for a young man. It was pretty exciting, the things we were doing. And I was, like I said, true believer. And I really kind of do still believe that back then we were on a more noble mission than what we have been as of late. So, yeah.
That's interesting though. Vitamin D is so important though now. It helps with absorption for everything. You know,
we would all get sick when we got back. All of us. I mean, because we come back, we've not been in the virus pool with you guys, and we get thrown back in after 3 months, and everything's changed, and we would all get sick.
Yeah, because your immune system is so low.
Yeah,
it's amazing how important vitamin D is. Yeah, but again, when it comes to supplements too, it's very important that you get ones that you can absorb. So the best form of vitamin D is sunlight. You know. Yeah. So,
can you get that from the UV lights, like the sunlight lamps or whatever? Can you get vitamin D from that?
I don't think so.
I
don't think so. No. It's the same as, you're lucky actually. In one respect, you're lucky they didn't have those meat 3D printers.
Then. Oh my gosh, that's
I can imagine them trying to solve the food supply problem with that.
Yeah, that sounds horrible.
Yeah, that does. It sounds disgusting. Be like eating Lego.
I've seen pictures of it, and it looks horrible.
Yeah, just seeing them make it, it's just I don't know how they could possibly think anyone would go for that garbage. But there are some out there, aren't there?
The thing is, they'll find people to do it. There'll be a market for it. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Well, the Impossible Burgers and such are doing terrible here in the market in America. They're always on sale, marked down. They've laid off like 50% of their staff. I don't think that's going to fly long term, which is great.
And that's such awesome news.
It is.
Yeah.
I did work in oil and gas and refineries, doing wireless network design for them for secure networks and for control systems. And we could do non-critical control systems wirelessly. And so I've been around a lot of industrial facilities, and seed oil refineries are no better. They're doing the same thing. They're cracking hydrocarbons, right? It's no different than oil and gas. Yet these environmental people are like, oh my gosh, oil and gas is so terrible because they got these refineries. But they eat seed oils. And it's like, that's exactly the same thing. It's just a different oil. And it's ridiculous that you think that this is like good and healthy and natural, and that you're going to eat these refined foods and vegetable oils. And it's terrible for the environment. There's no such thing as a clean, refinery. It's just, they aren't. And we have to have them, obviously, to make plastics, to make fuels, to make things that we live with today in modern society. But what we don't have to have is seed oil. That's one that you don't have to have it at all. And that's the thing I don't get. It's like,
it's the one thing we shouldn't have. Yeah,
it's the one thing. The one thing that just makes sense to get rid of. So easy, low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just that. A lot of these people are just ignorant of the way things, the way things work, the way our bodies work, the way the environment works. So these
thing is, they've got the heart healthy label on them, so they're heart healthy, right? That's what people think.
Low cholesterol. Try not to kill yourself.
Yeah. It's crazy. And you get these labels like organic salad dressings and stuff like that, and they tell you like these organic sort of oils that are in it, like these organic seed oils and whatnot, that are just machine oils. And like, okay, that's fine. Even if it is organic, it's still toxic, and it's just people don't read labels,
The salad oils we had growing up, when I grew up, the salad dressings, my mom would make them. She'd make Thousand Island dressing, right? And they didn't have seed oils because she would use like ketchup, which didn't have seed oils or anything back then. They had some sugar, mayonnaise, a little mustard or whatever, a little relish. She would make ranch dressing with buttermilk and seasoning. And we had olive oil, and back then olive oil was real olive oil. It was cold pressed, 100%, because there was not mass produced like it is now. And it was so we'd have those for dressings, and definitely infinitely more healthy than what people are eating now. And even if you buy the high quality stuff, like I used to eat salads with Ken's dressing, because Ken's dressing was like the expensive restaurant style dressing. But I look at it now, it's all canola oil. It's like the cheapest junk you could put in a food. It's the worst. It's poison.
Yeah. People are being convinced to count calories instead of counting ingredients. And that way corporations can put the blame on us for not eating low calories and exercising more. But you can't measure calories accurately, so it's just another blame game.
Even if you could, that's a physics problem, and we're biochemical engineers and biochemical engines. We're not physics engines, right? So
no, that's right. We're not internal combustion engines. We don't burn fuel. So,
I had to read through an article in an English class with some students yesterday talking about getting fit and calories, and I had to bite my tongue so much reading through that article.
I'll bet. So you're a teacher then, huh? Now, are you also teaching?
Yeah, teaching English now. Yeah.
Nice. Oh, you do it like an ESL? Are you in Japan?
Yeah.
Dave lives in Osaka.
I'm in Osaka.
Cool. Nice.
It's hard. We were talking about that before, because it was we're talking about that before, like saying how cheap it is to how easy it is to be carnivore in Japan as well, because of the meat and everything is so cheap. But the Yakiniku table holiday restaurants, buffets and things like that. But yeah, it's really cool.
That's neat. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Nothing as good as all you can eat meat restaurant. That's
Yeah.
The place we go
Carnivore
here for
utopia.
that. Well, we in Texas, every corner has a barbecue joint, which is great because Texas barbecue is different than a lot of American barbecue. It is a traditional German and Czechoslovakian style barbecue, which is smoked meats. So all they do is they season the meat with salt and pepper and they smoke it. They don't put any oils on it. They don't put any sugar, none of that. That's considered taboo in Texas. Now you go other places like Kansas City, it's all about sauce and sugar and mustard and all this stuff. They put all kinds of contaminants on their meat. We like the meat to stand out. So it's always, I get like when I buy brisket, I buy what they call extra moist, which is layered with fat throughout the meat. It's so good. Oh my gosh. My son's on board of that too. So I would get brisket and so we have that. And then the other thing I can do is I can go to a Brazilian steakhouse. That's the only place you can just get all the meat you want. And they just come with a sword and they cut the meat on your tray. And they just keep bringing meat to you nonstop.
Nice.
All these different swords. One's got ribeye, one's got lamb, and they just bring these and they cut. And you just have a card on your table and flip it from red to green. Green means bring me meat. Red means taking a break. And you just sit there and eat. And it's all you can eat. And now they have a buffet with like cheeses and vegetables off to the side, but I just leave that. I'm like, all right, I'm not gonna. The only thing I get out there, a little bit of hard cheese and some bacon, and then I'll just sit there and have them bring meat until I can't eat. Now, I don't eat out very often, but if I do, that is a place I would like to go. So
nice. I love the green and red idea.
Yeah. The buffets in Japan are much the same. They have a salad bar usually as well, or a desserts bar as well. But who goes to all you can eat meat and eats desserts?
Right. Eating the cheap food. You gotta eat the good stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like I went out with a friend of mine actually, and he ordered. We're at the all you can eat buffet, and he ordered 2 bowls of rice. I nearly slapped him. But oh well. You get that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, I'll tell you what. We might call it a night, and I'll just show you. I'll just show everyone your channels again, because I just want to show people where you can be reached. Larry is Carnivore Soldier. So you guys go check it out. A lot of great content, and just a great guy to talk to as well. So go check it out, like, subscribe, and whatnot. And of course, most of you are going to like or know Dave as well. So I'll just bring that up. No Carb Life.
Thanks for having us, man. It's been fun. I'm gonna go back.
Thank you.
I got to get up. I got to get up and like I get up at 4:45 a.m. So I got about 3.5 more hours of sleep, and then I'll be up.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm an early riser. I'm institutionalized.
It was really nice meeting you, Larry.
You too, brother. It was good. I mean,
you guys get together. It's
we will.
Yeah.
For sure. Being in the carnivore community, there's like a brotherhood, sisterhood out of this, because we're all going through the same experience together. We're making the same sacrifices together. It's very much like the military in that aspect, because in the military and in first responders, there is a brotherhood, and the brotherhood is in the military is, you actually take risks together in your job, real risks, and you actually make sacrifices, real sacrifices, which most people don't do in their jobs these days. And I think in this shared experience of carnivore, because it is so changing and so it encompasses every aspect of your life, including your mindset, right? That we have this brotherhood. Like I have never met either one of you guys in person, but I feel a kinship, and I feel like we have a lot in common immediately, and you can tell because we almost finished each other's sentences talking, right? We understand the truth and the nature of carnivore diet and the significance of it, and it's hard. And same with people viewing the video. I see their comments; they're getting the same thing. So it is a movement unlike any other. It really is.
Yeah. Well, it's an awakening, you know. That's what it is. You know, we're waking up to the fact that everything we've been lied to about everything. They've been deliberately making us sick, for example, and we are all in this together, you know. And you know, humanity is, you know, we're all a family, you know. So and we're all waking up to this at different times, and we're all, you know, coming on this journey from different points, but we're all heading in the same direction, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, Dave. Did you have a YouTube channel before this, or were you inclined to do a YouTube channel before this, or did this something that generated?
Just like mucking around, nothing serious. But like for me, I was angry when I realized, you know, how much we've been lied to, and that's where the YouTube came from.
Yeah, me too. I had a YouTube channel. This channel has existed for several years, and I had like 5 videos up. A couple were home videos I shared with my family, and then a couple were drone videos because I was doing some drone flying. But that was it. No one followed me. I didn't do no personal videos where I did interviews or anything. This was all, and this is the movement, right? That we're out. We're just like, hey, this is the real deal. It's the anger. It's the call, right? It's the call to action. So,
well, you don't realize too, you know, like we all pretty much know that politicians are for hire, and we know that politics is corrupt, but we don't sort of realize until we get, you know, really deep into it, and we start realizing, okay, it's absolutely everywhere. It's the education, it's the food supply, the manufacturing, the farming, the, you know, and the politicians and the corporations, and it's just absolutely everything is complete illusion. And that's when it sort of starts to make you pretty angry, and you think that even your own education is complete BS. You know, it's a complete lie.
Yeah.
And you can't get a real education anymore either. You can't get a critically thinking education where the people actually learn to think for themselves. They basically, you just remember what the numbers they want you to know. Yeah, it's just,
and even the ones that tell you need to be a critical thinker, they're like, you need to be a critical thinker provided you follow our narrative.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
think critically about stuff, but not about this stuff.
Yeah. Like as long as you follow this direction, yeah, you can think as much as you want, but you know, don't think outside that direction.
That hasn't
don't look
changed
around
much.
this corner.
Yeah, that hasn't changed much because I remember getting out of the Navy after my 6 years and traveling the world in the submarine and everything, and then going to college and hearing professors spew out absolute lies about the West and about our countries and stuff. I'm like, and people just, oh yeah, that's the way it is because the professor said it. So I'm like, holy cow, these guys are lying to these kids, and they just eat it up, you know, as fact. And yeah, it's pretty crazy. So I don't know. I agree. It's the whole system that and this is a, you know, YouTube has limitations and has its faults, but thank God for it, because if it wasn't here, I wouldn't be here, and you guys probably wouldn't either. I would not be Carnivore.
No, that's right.
Not be doing this.
Yeah, it still has the largest audience, and it's not, even though we can't talk about certain things,
right?
It does have the largest audience, and if it wasn't for YouTube, there wouldn't be other platforms,
right?
You know,
Rumble,
like Rumble, and all the rest of them. You know, so it does have its uses.
Yeah, we just gotta make hay while the sun shines with it, right? Until they clamp down, and
yeah, that's right. Just
all
do
right,
what
guys,
we can.
I'm gonna drop out of here.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks, Larry. Thanks for dropping in. Really appreciate that,
cheers,
guys.
Larry.
Yeah.
Cheers, DC.
All right, mate.
We're still on?
Yeah, that's all right. We'll finish up there. And all right, guys. Thanks everyone for
Okay.
joining us. Thanks for all the comments and the questions. And we'll see
Cheers,
you
guys.
soon. Okay.
Yeah.